Hey, I'm going to move on and I'm going to use the power to power rule now with the exponents. So in the same worksheet we were using before, you have this term raised to the second power. So if you remember the rule, the 2 goes with each element inside the parentheses. So I'm going to do 4 squared. First I'm going to write it 4 squared like this, just so we're familiar. And then I'm going to take the p and square it. The q, apply the 2. Remember there's a 1 here, so 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 2 is 2. And r, there's an exponent of 1, so 1 times 2 is 2. Now, because this is not going to be an immensely large number, I'm going to go ahead and put 16, so 4 squared. So 4 times 4 is 16. And then bring the answer over here. Go r cubed, there you go. So there's your final answer there. Sometimes, you will be able to leave, like if it was like, for example, 5 to the 5th power, you would probably leave it like that, but most of these you should be able to go ahead and use your calculator. Remember, we're using Delta Math to solve that. Alright, so let's move on to number 15. So again, I'm going to remember that this -3, this exponent is applied to every term in here. So I'm just going to write 2 to the -3. I recommend you do that if you have a negative exponent because it saves on the confusion for later. So then I have m to the 0. Now if you remember, anything raised to the 0 power is 1. So I can really just cross that off because the value is 1, and whether I go ahead and apply this exponent to it, it's still going to end up being 1. So when you have the 0, you're going to cross it off, and if there's nothing left, you just put the number 1. So in our purposes, we're crossing it off. I hope that made sense. So then I'm going to go with my p. I've got a p, got a -3. Remember the power to power rule says I'm going to multiply my exponents. A -3 times a -3 is a +9. So now I'm going to simplify. Can't have that negative. Remember, I recommend you do it this way. Okay, I'm just going to put it 2, I drop it to the bottom, and I lose the negative sign. And then up top, I have p to the 9th. Then you can do the final step, p9, and then 2 cubed, which is 2 times 2 times 2, is 8. So there's your answer for 15. Now I did a lot of explanation on that. I'm going to kind of cut down a little bit, so hopefully it's a little bit easier. So I'm going to do another one. -2 is going to be applied to this one. So I write 3 -2. X. I know there's a 1 there, so 1 times -2 is -2. So those are done. Y. 2 times -2 is -4. Y is done. Z. 3 times -2 is -6. Now I'm going to simplify it. Got a negative here, so that causes it to go to the bottom. So 3 squared, I lose the negative and keep the exponent. X has a negative exponent, goes to the bottom. Lose the negative, keep the exponent. The same thing for y, goes to the bottom. Lose the negative, keep the exponent. And the same thing for z, check that out. Lose the negative, keep the exponent. Now we would need a number 1 up top because it looks silly if we don't have anything there. Now, last step, 1 over what's 3 squared? 3 times 3 is 9. And then you copy the other variables down. So your answer is 1, 9x squared, y to the 4th, z to the 6th. Simple, right? Okay. So next video, we're going to tackle some quotient rules, which is so much fun.